Number 3 pick. Do they stay at number 3? Do they take Tua? Do they take Jeff Okudah? What are you feeling?
I think they have to trade. Like this with that roster as it is right now. Jeffrey Okudah's great. Love Jeffrey Okudah. They can trade and still get Jeffrey Okudah.
Yeah, it's
like
possible.
that's the biggest thing there. And one Jeffrey Okudah, I don't think is going to transform that roster, especially if they do trade Darius Slay. Then you still need another cornerback also. So I do think that trading, especially with Tua there, with Herbert there, with teams like the Chargers, the Panthers, the Colts, all needing a quarterback, you can get a lot in return for that number 3 overall pick and turn that into a franchise transforming sort of draft, similar to actually what the Colts did a couple years ago when they traded out of 3, got Quentin Nelson, got Braden Smith, reformed their offensive line overnight with that.
But who's the taker? I mean, do the Dolphins jump up just to make sure nobody else gets Tua, or do one of the other teams try to jump the Dolphins?
It's the Dolphins to lose. With how much draft capital they have, they can outbid anyone at this point.
But do they need to? You're gambling if you don't do it.
I think with Tua, you got to put the asterisk around his name right now with that injury, whatever. That gets cleared. He's fully healthy. Assume that. I think it's the Dolphins. I think they need to go get their guy. And Tua, I mean, there was a reason everyone was saying tank for Tua after his sophomore year.
Right.
It's like he didn't hurt his draft stock. Joe Burrow just rocketed upwards. Like he's still worthy of number 1 overall pick. It's just Joe Burrow is on another level.
Okay, is there any chance that the Dolphins trade with the Redskins and that Chase Young maybe falls to the Detroit Lions? Because I think that is their dream scenario.
I don't think so. Just because, optically, I think that, even in the Redskins spot, if you do get blown away by a trade offer, I would consider it. But if you optically trade out of that pick and Chase Young turns into a Hall of Famer, perennial Pro Bowler,
you'll never secure the
GM,
end
you don't
of
live it down. You just can't live it down with your fan base. Fan base will that sort of how the whole that side of the business you don't really get to control, and as an outsider it's easy to say what to do, but you have to answer it and look at the newspapers every day as a GM sort of thing. So I do think that they're pretty much locked in Chase Young with how good he is, and like I said, if they traded out of that pick and he becomes a Hall of Famer, they got a lot of explaining to do.
Well, the Lions could certainly use some help up front defensively, and I think that that's probably something that they look at in this draft. Is there anybody else that you could see them taking at 3? Say they don't find a trade that really entices them. Jeff Okudah is the name that we hear over and over, but it sounds like you feel like that's not the difference that their defense needs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of fit and player and value and how good he is very much makes sense. But I'm saying one guy isn't gonna turn this around. There's multiple needs in that defense. They need edge, probably need some help along the offensive line too. But I think where the value is, you're either gonna go OT there, which I'm not necessarily sure they're necessarily need in a huge way at the moment. It's either OT or cornerback is where the real value is at number 3 in terms of the players that are available, or wide receiver, which again I don't think they really necessarily need. So that's why Okudah makes the most sense. They're a pass rusher after Chase Young. There's just not going to be a guy that's going to fit in the top 5 that you're going to be reaching for a Cleveland Farrell type of that's the reach you're going to be making if you do go pass rusher there.
So then when it comes to pass rusher day 2, who are some names that the Lions would be looking at, because we know they need help there?
Yeah, we look at Romeo Okwara's brother, Julian. I think he's a day 2 type of pass rusher. He's much more athletic than his brother, which has to suck for Romeo to some degree, because this guy is a freak. He's going to test off the charts here in Indy, I fully expect. And I think he's a perfect sort of Patricia scheme edge rusher in terms of can drop into coverage, can rush the passer, can do a lot of different things athletically, and they tend to like those guys off the edge, Belichick disciples. So I do think Okwara could be a good fit. I'm trying to think of other names off the top of my head. Curtis Weaver, I'm a big fan of. He's not necessarily that type of pass rusher, but he's more versatile in terms of he can kick inside, which they also like. So versatility along defensive line is big for those guys. He can kick inside, rush the passer, super high rate at Boise State. Well, I don't think he goes in the first round because the athletic sort of traits aren't there as much as some of the other edge rushers. And like I said, it's a fairly weak edge rushing class. But I think second round, third round, he'd come off the board. And those two guys we're pretty big fans of here at PFF, just because the production at college has been super high. Yeah.
All right.